daughter lives down in Cocoa, and my grandson, it was his birthday.
So they're just coming to watch the meeting?
On. All right, I've got 5 p.m. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I ask Commissioner Stewart, please lead us in the invocation.
Please stand and join us. Heavenly Father, again, we come tonight thankful. Lord, this week as we celebrate Thanksgiving, Lord, we just want to say that we thank you, God, for all the gifts you've given us. Lord, this country that we call the United States, that we're free, for our Constitution, Lord. We thank you for all those things, Lord. We ask that you just bless us tonight. Bless our county. Bless our people. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I want to ask Jerry, Mr. Moore's grandgirls to come on up, and they're going to do the pledge for us.
Right.
Ladies, y'all can just come right up there, and you can look at the flag over here, and
Are you ready?
whenever you're ready.
Start us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Very good.
Very good.
That is my daughter from Atlanta, and when I had hair, my hair was black like hers.
Back at Art 5.
She was just fortunate enough to keep hers.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. You have several opportunities to participate with us. We have a citizens to be heard at the beginning, also one at the end. You can speak on either one, and also you can speak on each individual agenda item. Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty for each item that you'd like to speak on. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to pull item number 9 off of tonight's agenda, please.
Number 9, we're tabling that for future meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda is modified.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. We'll go into our citizens to be heard. We'll start out with Mr. Gerald Fielder.
Thank you, gentlemen. I've been busy and out, but I had a moment to stop by and talk to Dave a little bit, and still concerned about the progress with the boat ramp at Lake Ellen and the entryway there, and I wanted to see kind of where we stand with that. I am concerned. I heard that there was one individual try to put a boat in and got stuck. I've been into those places, and I know that if I back my rig down in there, I will be stuck. And I think most guys that's got two-wheel drive equipment like myself, it's just not sufficient for that. Four-wheel drive maybe, but it's just insufficient. I don't know where you stand on it right there. Or are we going to do anything at all with that? Or have you done everything you're going to do? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
David, do you have a comment on that?
Well, it's we're going to be clearing as the lake level drops. We got to continue some more cleaning up in there. So we'll continue doing that. And it is a four-wheel drive. It's a primitive ramp, and we've noted it on a sign there that it takes a four-wheel drive to.
Is there any rock at all down?
We haven't put any rock down yet, but that is coming.
Okay, so you are going to put rock down to
Yes.
the water line?
To the water line, yes.
Okay.
So if you got a four-wheel drive, you should be able to launch without a problem. So.
Well, if you have rock down to the water line, you should be able to do it with two-wheel drive.
You should be able to do it
If
with two-wheel drive,
you go below the water
as
line.
long as you don't back down too far, yeah.
Well, if you go down the water line, it's going to be okay. Past the water line, you're in trouble.
Past the water line, you're in trouble, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Todd Mitchell.
Hello. I'm Todd Mitchell, and I'm the division manager for Waste Pro. And we'd had several complaints this last week regarding our small garbage route. And it's unusual to have, but we've had both of our little trucks, which are, a little bit bigger than a pickup, down at the same time. We apologize for the customer service that we have not provided, but we're working diligently to get both those trucks back up and running. One of them is back up and running today. So we're running a little bit behind on that small garbage route. And the problem is you cannot use a pickup in that area. It's too heavy for the containers, and it needs to have a dumper with it. So we're looking at modifying maybe a trailer down the road so that we have a third backup in case we do have one of those little trucks go down. But I wanted to let everybody know that we know that we've got that issue, and we're going to address it.
I got a question. I spent an hour and a half on the phone Sunday with a nice elderly woman about garbage.
Sure.
It wasn't all about y'all, but are they contractually required to have a backup truck if one breaks down?
Two.
Where is that backup truck?
Well, the little truck, we did have a backup truck, but it went down.
Okay.
And then the big trucks, we have those in several different areas.
I believe the contract says you're supposed to have a backup truck that's running. Is that correct, David?
Operational, yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I would expect, I mean, this is really stressful for a lot of people.
Sure it is.
That this not happen again. And there needs
Well,
to be,
I'm not going to lie to you that it couldn't happen again. It could.
well, I mean, if you have two trucks down, find a way to have a truck to come down and take the route over. That's all I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
sure you have the Leon County contract, right?
But none of these trucks are anywhere else. We have none of those trucks.
So Wakulla is the only one that has the small
That's correct.
truck.
They're little. They're like the size of a pickup, and
I've seen 'em.
and they have a cart tipper on the side. And I don't have any other. So I'm looking at getting a trailer that we could put a tipper on it or do something else. I talked to my boss, Ralph Mills, and I said, have we ever had this situation before? He said, no, not that I'm aware of. He said, why would you have both of them down at the same time? And I said, well, it just happened that you had a motor that, a piece of the motor that went bad on one, and you had the hydraulics on the other one. And I said, and they happened within a day of each other.
People, citizens are pretty patient. If, what I've heard, if it didn't come today, usually come the next day, but now it's been several days. I like your trailer idea, but y'all should have something
Well,
as a backup.
you can always, hindsight's 20/20, but at the same time, we had never expected that to be the situation at that time with the little truck. And we did go out with the pickup. It wasn't all just a truck situation. It ended up being the fact that we had one of the employees that wasn't quite honest with everything about what had happened and what he had gotten and what he hadn't gotten. So I can't honestly say it was all truck, but the majority of it was the truck situation, and we're looking at, again, to make sure that we get that
I've
addressed.
got nothing but glowing things to say about Calvert, by the way.
Yeah.
He does the best with what he's given, and what he's given is what y'all give him.
Yep.
So, okay.
Good deal.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update, sir.
You're welcome.
That ends our citizens to be heard. We'll go into awards and presentation. And now we get the pleasure of saying thank you to one of our colleagues. Jerry, you have been on the board now since 2010 and served for us and with us very well. And I appreciate the time that you have spent here. Yeah.
I can say for the most time I enjoyed it. Sometimes it wasn't so pleasurable,
Right.
but really it's been an experience, and I met a lot of nice people. It's really been an experience, and I'm grateful to, and I appreciate all you folks.
And we appreciate your willingness
Yeah.
to serve.
Yeah.
Sir, absolutely. And we have a plaque here for you. I'd like to read it to you.
What about my watch?
That takes
It's in the mail.
that takes 12 years of service.
You gotta go watch. Who's got to go watch?
The Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners hereby recognizes and pays special tribute to Jerry Moore to acknowledge his 8 years from 2010 to 2018 of dedicated service as District 4 County Commissioner, serving Wakulla County and its citizens. Presented November 19, 2018.
I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. I probably have one request with this. If you'll just name the intersection after Commissioner Moore. Down at 319 and 98. That's my intersection. I claim it. I did it. So I need that.
Pretty much what they call it anyway.
That's officially what it's called out.
And also the,
Lift station.
the lift station, that's mine too, so I need my name on those. But I appreciate this, and I appreciate everybody.
Thank you for your
I may have an, this being my last meeting, you'll have to humor me when I go into my seance at the end of the meeting, so I promise you'll be out of here by 10 o'clock. Thank you, Val.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate your service. All right.
Approve consent.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, we have no general business items tonight. No consent items pulled. Public hearing, item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed resolution electing to use the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem special assessments. This is a procedural item that you do every year in order to preserve your ability to put a special assessments on the tax bill next year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Comments? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Public hearing, item number 6.
This is a request for the board to conduct the final public hearing and adopt an ordinance amending Section 7-20 of the Land Development Code pertaining to development plan reviews and inspections for new subdivisions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion?
This is good stuff. This is this inspection program we've been talking about. Very necessary, I think.
I believe it passed unanimously with the Planning Commission.
Yes.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our public hearing items. We'll go into planning and zoning. Number 7 has been tabled. Item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for a change of zoning R1814. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the County Code, each commission member needs to disclose any ex parte communications you may have had regarding this item. Commissioner Stewart.
None.
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 I think the applicant called me.
I think the applicant called me too, just to be safe.
Okay. If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, including the applicant, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, this request is to rezone 2 acres located on the west side of Woodville Highway, just north of Jerry's Bait and Tackle in Wakulla Station, from RR1 to C2 General Commercial. The future land use for this property is Rural 2, which does contain requirements for intersection distances. New commercial rezoning should be within a quarter mile of a major intersection. However, it does provide that the board may make findings specific to this property in order to potentially approve a rezoning that exceeds the quarter mile intersection distance requirements. One of those findings would be that the proposed rezoning is compatible with the existing character of the surrounding area, and also that existing residentially zoned parcels would not be negatively impacted by the proposed rezoning. The subject property is within the FEMA flood zone designation of X.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. We have one citizen, Mr. Nick John.
Hi.
Welcome, sir.
Hello.
Nick John and Nancy John, 1374 Old Woodville Road. We're neighbors of this property. And I have these if you'd like copies to read.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And I can read it if you'd like.
Your 3 minutes, sir. You're welcome to, or give us a summary.
Okay, we're homeowners of the property on Old Woodville Road. We understand the owners of the reference property want to develop this into an event menu, which is weddings and parties. It's a rural 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. They plan to have the entrance on Old Woodville Road. That's a block down from the children's playground, which would be across the street. all residential in there now on Old Woodville Road. The issue with an event menu is there's Fred and Miss Two that own the Castnet are the ones that are doing this. They're our neighbors and friends of ours. But we're looking out for our residential interests and our property value interests there, in that the event menu would have Fred's approved for up to 150 people arriving at an event. So if you're going to a wedding, they come at one time, which is a bit different than a restaurant and other types of issues. So I've expressed our concerns as homeowners, and there was one of our other neighbors that was here that expressed a similar concern at the planning meeting, which was, I think, last Thursday, and submitted this same summary of our concerns.
So if they did the entrance to the site off of the Woodville Highway, you wouldn't have a problem with it?
Well, I'd have less of a problem with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Summer, at this point, we're just doing a rezoning, right? And you and I talked
That
about
is
the
correct.
access. If he does this venue, it's going to require site plan approval, correct?
That's correct.
Any idea why he's saying that access is off of Old Woodville? Is it,
I understood it from Mr. Morfeld that that was his original desire.
when you read, is it to avoid a turn lane construction or something, or?
We have not had that specific conversation. It could be to avoid a driveway connection from DOT potentially, but we have not had any communications on that specifically.
I do share his concern, and you and I talked about right down here on Aaron Road is what they call it, the Pickin' Parlor.
Mhm.
It's a kind of a similar venue type setup. I don't know if you guys have ever been there or not, but it's a pretty big place, and you wouldn't even know it's there, so.
Well, my only concern is putting all that traffic on, on a residential street.
I agree.
Okay,
But
so
we're at the
don't-
rezoning stage right now. Site plan, I guess, would be the time to address that, because
Can we require it, or is once we do this,
we're undoing a rezoning with conditions tonight, so I don't think we can do it.
we can't do conditions, so what, is there any way we can, make sure that the access to the site goes on Woodville Highway?
I can work with the applicant if the zoning is approved when they submit the site plan and strongly encourage them to place that driveway connection on Woodville Highway. The comp plan does encourage accesses from side roads whenever possible, but it does not specifically require that. If the applicant chose to not access from Woodville Highway itself, I would not have a basis for denying that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to vote for this. I had a motion ready to deny it, and if this don't pass, I'll put that on the floor. But it just doesn't make sense if you look at the zoning where all around it is residential. I wouldn't want that next to my home. I certainly feel like this gentleman does it. I don't think any of us would. Whether to me, it has very little to do with the traffic ingress and egress, but more the fact that it's just not compatible with the zoning. It's over a mile from a collector road or any, and that's been our rule, a quarter of a mile, and case by case, yeah, we approve them occasionally, but this sticks right out in the middle of a residential area. So
Yeah, it's right, it's got surrounded
I'm
by
not going to vote
residential.
for it for those reasons, and then if it fails, I'll put a motion
And
to deny it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to vote for it simply because it's in close proximity. Jerry's Bait and Tackle, I think, is just south of this, right?
Correct.
The junkyard is just north of it. I mean, you're right, it does have around it, but in the general area, Jerry's Bait and Tackle wouldn't exist today if maybe it shouldn't, I don't know.
That's fine.
And I appreciate your position, though.
And I could support it if they were definitely going out on Woodville Highway, but since they're not, I can't support it. That's my problem. We need to change our comp plan such that, a back road is not considered
Right.
a side road.
Right.
Woodville, if it was off Cumberland Trace, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but it's not. It's off Old Woodville Highway.
So this property is within a quarter mile?
It is
No,
not.
it's not.
It's approximately 1 mile from the qualifying intersections.
And we've talked about this a lot, that we limit our commercial development because of this rule. There are a lot of places where there's commercial all around, and now we're forced to deny someone to rezone commercial because they're not within that range. So, I mean, I don't see this property as being a place where someone's likely to build a house with the other commercial that's developed around it. You know, it seems like to me that this would be more likely to continue being commercial.
Happy Times is a good example of what you just said.
Right.
You've got the strip mall there, you got Happy Times, you've got several other commercial.
Car lot, you got a...
None of those would be there
Office.
today.
Right.
And maybe they shouldn't be. I don't know.
Well, but that's from sins of our past, if you will. That was there, and it was, you know, it's grandfathered in, it's there, and maybe we shouldn't have done it had rules been different back then, but they weren't. But now rules are different. And I'm not trying to talk you out of this. I'm just saying I'm going to vote against it. I don't think it's compatible. If you look, there's other commercial zoning nearby, but I can tell you, if you try to do this next to my house, I'm gonna be angry and ask that you not do it. I think you guys would feel the same way if somebody. You're talking about 150 people coming at one time, and that can happen several times a day. It can happen once a week. It can happen once a month. But if it's a nice venue, then you know people are going to want to be there, and it's just not compatible.
Almost sounds like building a nice church. Basically, you'll have a big crowd come in certain times, and then the rest of the time it's empty.
Well, I'd like to think.
And I'm not
church
trying to
folks-
convince you either.
Right.
Is there a church next to this, by the way, I think in that area?
There is just south.
Okay. And
Of
is
this
that's
property?
not on commercial property, right?
It is not. It has a conditional use approval under a residential zoning.
But it's not one of the ones that abuts this or anything like that, right?
No, it's not immediately adjacent.
Okay.
And we don't have anything in this agenda item as far as the use. And I understand that it may be an event venue, but that's not part of the application. That we're being asked, is it compatible with the zoning, not is the use going to be appropriate, because that hasn't been presented to us at all.
But it could be a lot of other things too, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. I mean, it could be.
It can be almost anything,
Yes. So, I mean, we're by approving it, we're going to allow something like that or worse
That fits C2.
that fits in C2. Exactly.
I agree.
Once it goes through site plan approval through staff. And if it's over a certain square feet, we vote on it.
Yeah, but it's not going to get over this.
No.
We'll never see it again, so that's...
Most likely,
Most
correct.
And so I can't approve it.
All right, further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Pass or fails 3-2. Thank you.
Okay, if I may, Mr. Chairman, make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move to deny the request for rezoning R18-14 from RR1 to C2 because the proposed zoning is not compatible with the existing residential area, would cause excessive traffic in a residential area and potential noise in a residential area. Thus, the existing residentially zoned parcels would be negatively impacted by this proposed zoning or rezoning.
Do we need a motion, Mike, or because it failed?
We need to deny.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And I want to make sure that we have some
Okay.
substance as to why we're rezoning.
Actually, Heather said since this is more than a quarter mile, we don't need that, but that's fine.
No, I said we should move to deny.
I know, but I'm saying Mike just listed the reasons why, but you said in this case, since it's more than a quarter of a mile, it's really up to us whether to approve it or not.
Well, I think the criteria that Commissioner Stewart's motion included were the criteria that you guys would have to find were satisfied in order to cite outside of that
Okay.
quarter mile.
Very good. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any citizens like to speak on the new motion? Hearing none. Further discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. You oppose
Vote
it?
against it.
And you voted against it? Okay, so that
Jerry,
motion
vote.
fails 3-2.
I voted against it.
Right.
Yeah.
So his motion failed 3-2.
Jerry, he's voting to deny it.
I'm
If you're
voting to
consistent
deny
with
it.
your last motion, you'd be voting for what Mike just said.
Yeah. All right, I'll vote with Mike.
All right?
Yeah,
So
sorry
I'll,
about that.
so I'll recall the vote. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Aye. And opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So that passes 3-2. So the application is denied.
We don't always agree on everything, but the system
No,
works.
I would have been fine if it had gotten approved. That's my opinion, and where we are.
System worked.
All right, so item Thank you, sir. Item number 9 has been tabled. We'll go to planning and zoning, item number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for a change of zoning, R1816. This is to go from RR1 to low-density residential. In accordance with the code, each commission member needs to disclose any ex parte communications you may have had regarding this application. Commissioner Stewart?
I don't think so.
No.
None.
No.
No.
Okay. If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. You're still sworn. Thank you.
All right.
This request for rezoning is for a 7.82 acre parcel located on the north side of MLK, just west of the Mallard Pond subdivision. This is a rezoning request from RR1 to LDR, the new Crawfordville Town Plan's low-density residential.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion?
I just, this is it's compatible with what's on either side of it, so it seems the right place to do
They're
it.
gonna have a tough time getting sewer there, though. They're
Don't
gonna
they
have
have
sewer
it?
for half acre, no.
So 2 homes per acre is the requirement.
There's no sewer on MLK.
Uh-huh.
But so they have to have sewer to have 2 units to the acre, right?
That's correct.
So they got a little hurdles to overcome there.
All right.
Close.
Further discussion? Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Planning and zoning, item number 11.
This is an application for a change of zoning, R1817. This is to go from RR1 to low-intensity commercial. In accordance with the code, please disclose any ex parte communications. Commissioner Stewart?
None.
Commissioner Moore?
I spoke to the applicant.
None.
If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
This change of zoning request is for a 2.19 acres total, which contains 5 lots within the Evergreen Acres subdivision, located just south of Mike Stewart Drive and west of Harry Morrison Road. This request is to rezone from RR1 to low-intensity commercial.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Meadows, would you like to speak on this?
I'm just here to answer any questions there may be.
Okay. Very good. Further discussion from the board?
Even though my name's listed there, I have no interest in this property, so.
Okay.
Well, it's the right place for commercial development, so it's right beside Walmart, it's appropriate, so.
Very good. Further discussion? Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Congratulations, sir. That moves us to planning and zoning, item number 12.
This is an application for a change of zoning, R1818. This is an administrative rezoning to go from RR2 with conditions to just RR2 and remove the conditions.
Motion to approve.
Is there any ex parte communications?
No.
Anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application? Okay, thank you.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our planning and zoning. We have no scheduled commissioner agenda items. County attorney.
Nothing this evening?
County administrator.
Yes, I want to give you an update real quick. Debris pickup, as I had sent out last week, we're looking at a Christmas time frame to wrap up major operations. Realize after that, we still will have some operations going on. We won't be able to get everything, but we'll reduce down from a major operation to a minor operation, so we'll still have pockets to pick up. We understand that. Also, update on the bridge and on Surf Road, the Otter Creek Rise Bridge. Monday, the bids are due. Brandy's working on that. Next Monday, they're due. There'll be a quick turnaround on the construction, but it was an emergency procurement, a pretty good size procurement, so therefore we had to take it through the process to make sure that it applied for FEMA, et cetera. So that'll, hopefully we'll have that done by Christmas as well, too.
Somebody tell Sheree Posey.
Yeah. And, but anyway, other than that, wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and that's it.
Thank you, sir. Citizens to be heard? None for the second discussion items?
Got a few. Got most of it out on the poor Waste Pro guy, but we really need to hold their feet to the fire about that, having that backup truck. And I understand things happen, but they're contractually required to have a backup. And I personally get more calls on garbage than everything else combined.
Yes.
Roads, thank God we don't deal with mosquitoes no more, but, anything is garbage. People mad that their garbage didn't get picked up, or their recycling get picked up. So I still think it's the right thing to do, but I think the satisfaction rate's probably above 80% if I had to guess, but we can make them do better, and they're required to do better. Also on the storm damage, I guess you guys have seen several emails about that. I'm going to make a motion that we extend the waiving of the permit fees for 30 days, but with a couple of different things. Is that staff has to verify that it was actually storm damage. We've had a couple instances, I think, where things have happened that people weren't completely honest. So the staff would verify the storm damage, and I talked to Summer about coming with an application that the property owner has to sign, because apparently some fees were getting waived, and then they were getting charged by the contractor for fees that the contractor had gotten waived. So if the property owner is aware the fees got waived, that shouldn't happen again. And the other thing would be that your replacement, like the mobile homes down in Paradise Village, would apply if they were substantially damaged, which there's a definition for that. If they're only 30% damaged and they just want to get a new mobile home because they want to upgrade, no, that doesn't apply. If it's substantially damaged, there's a specific definition for that. Anyway, that's my motion to extend that for another 30 days. If we need to come back and extend it for 30 more, we can do it again.
Is that
I
based
second
on
the
the
motion.
50%, the substantial damage?
Correct. Correct. So if you have to replace your home, fine, you'll get the fee waived. But if you don't have to replace it and you just want to replace it, then no, you don't get it. And it were like $900 fees, so we're not talking about.
I second that.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Would you consider a friendly amendment to extend it beyond the 30 days? And if we're going to have them verify that it's damaged and look at the substantial damage, we might as well just extend that out, not.
And I'm not too adverse to that, but I think we should look where we're at in 30 days, and we can just under discussion again say we want to extend it another 30 days. We want to make sure we don't let it lapse, right, Summers? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm not adverse to that, but I think this would work fine. That way we can come back and look at it again. And if we need to add another qualifier to stop a situation that somebody's abusing, we could do it at that time too.
I guess we can always do it month by month.
Yeah.
And important to note, this is not a scheduled agenda item,
Right.
so it will require all 5 votes. If anyone plans to
Vote no,
oppose that,
speak
please,
now.
please let us
I've got concerns here because this is an issue that, if they've lost their house, they're going to be covered by insurance, and this is a cost that's going to be covered by
Unnecessary.
insurance.
A lot of those folks are not insured.
If they're not insured, that's where it gets funny.
And we had a long discussion today about people with insurance, and what it comes down to me is, what have we been doing the past 30 days? Have we said, if you have insurance, we're not waiving your fees the past 30? No, we haven't.
We need to
So
be
I just figure we'd be consistent. I understand some things are going to slip through the cracks, but most people that have insurance also have a deductible. So in my mind, they're going to be paying something if they save on the permit fees, and Heather doesn't necessarily agree with that on me, but the main reason was to be consistent with how we've already been
And it's
doing.
only going to be for houses that were considered 50% or more damage, so
No,
that
that's for replacement.
for replacement.
If you're replacing a mobile home, yes, only if it's 50% more. If your tree fell on your roof because of the hurricane, your fee still gets waived. There's no 50% on that.
If
50% only
it's a
applies
repair.
to replacement of a home.
I would, if you go forward with this, I would make instead of 30 days, make it to January 8th. That way, because we don't have another meeting we have a meeting on the 4th.
Okay, I'll modify my
next month.
motion
That's
to
it.
January 8th.
January 8th is the
next
Tuesday
meeting?
after our next meeting.
That's a good idea. That way we know we won't miss it.
That's right.
Okay.
I second that.
And so if they're having to replace it, and I don't know, would it be a separate permit for demolition? Would that include demolition and replacement?
I'm assuming any permit fees associated with the replacement.
Typically, if you apply for a replacement of a home with a new home, the demolition or removal of that home is included as part of that overall permit
Okay,
package.
so that's our intent is for the whole.
And we're up to about 17,000 right now in permit fees waived that we have to pay for the general fund, but we got a healthy reserve, and this helps out the people that were damaged from the storm.
Mr. Chairman, one quick clarification. One of the conditions was that the storm damage must be verified by staff.
Correct.
You're not implying that staff has to go inspect and verify storm damage before they could waive the permit. Could that be done by an affidavit from the property owner?
However they want to do it. I'll let y'all handle that internally, David. That's David's job. If he thinks they need to go out and look at it, Clyde thinks they need to look at it, fine.
Or if
It's in an area where they know, y'all got brains. You can figure it out.
We've already got a list of, we pretty much know what they are.
Okay.
Very good. And just for the record, I spoke to the property appraiser today because I was, curious if they're replacing it with a new home, is that going to increase tax revenue? Is it going to be retaxed at the higher rate? Because some of those homes are pre-1976 single wides that don't have a lot of taxable value. But the rule is if they stay within 125% of the current square footage, they would maintain their homestead exemption.
Save Our Homes portability go with the new house?
As long as they stay within that 125%. If they go above 125%, the new tax rate is going to be anything in excess of the square footage. So you could have a home that's only worth, say, $10,000. They might be replacing it with one at $80,000, but if it's within the same square footage or 125%, it's going to maintain the same value. Now, that'll change once they sell that home down the road. Now it's going to be based on the market price at that time. So theoretically, it could generate more revenue to offset the fees that we're waiving down the road.
All these will have to go up to the meat code. They'll have to raise them all.
Because this is an existing manufactured home park, it has some exceptions under the Code of Federal Regulations. So if the mobile home was determined to be substantially damaged, then it would have to be elevated above the base flood elevation plus the 1 foot of freeboard that the building code requires. If it is determined that the structure was not substantially damaged in this event, it could be replaced 3 feet above grade plus the 1 foot of freeboard, so ultimately 4 feet above grade.
There you go.
There you go, Chuck.
So, okay, so if they're replacing one, but we're not waiving the fee on the ones that they replaced just because they're damaged.
Based on Randy's motion here, you would only be covering the fees for those that have been declared substantially damaged and replacement of those. If it was not substantially damaged and they just decided, okay, it's time to get a new mobile home, then staff would not waive those fees based on that motion.
I'm going to ask the staff what, I think it's important to have your recommendation. I don't know how many of these homes exist. Can y'all tell us that approximately? I know you don't know exact numbers, but I know our building official's here, and he could probably tell us how many may be impacted.
Yes, sir. I got to go all the way up.
You got to go all the way up there.
That way the folks at home can
That's
hear
right.
you as well.
Everybody wants to hear from Clyde.
Everybody. In the Paradise Village subdivision itself, there's probably, we've had 10 that have come in and said they wanted to replace. Now, all of those homes in there got damaged. Now, whether, they're substantially damaged or not, we've got probably half of them that are. But, the thing says if you get a contractor to come in there and give you a price and it comes under 50% of the value, we're getting those from the property appraiser that they can repair them. But some of those homes just can't be repaired.
And there's other issues too. People trying to deal with their insurance company. You got to get engineers. You got to get prices. So it's not just Paradise Village. There's a lot of people, it's my understanding, that
Across the road over there?
have not started pulled permits to do their repairs from the storm for whatever reason.
A lot on Surf Road too.
So you're saying $900 would be the total of the fees?
That's what
we
Summer was
waive?
telling me for a replacement of a mobile
Engineering
home.
and fees
Yes,
for
we
engineering
just-
and all
we
that?
would-
No, the
That's the
mobile home
building
doesn't need
permit
engineering.
fee. That would be the building permit fee for plans review and processing that building permit. Now, if it were a site-built home, let's say on Surf Road, that was substantially damaged and had to be demolished and rebuilt, a building permit fee for that type of structure could be $1,200 plus, depending on the size of the structure.
But I mean, there are other homes in our county that's been destroyed other than Paradise Village.
There's some, yes, some on Martin Luther King out there that had trees fall through them, yes.
From a staff standpoint, our initial look at this was we were going to be against extending this due to the fact of unscrupulous contractors taking advantage and folks taking advantage of the system. We can understand this takes on a lot of verification on our part and burns up a lot of time when we do find somebody that has cheated the system. And not that we want to make, the problem is we also are in the throes of, do we come down on the side of shutting the program off because of a couple of bad apples?
Right.
Which is probably, but if we continue to have problems during this time period, we will come back on January 8th and let you know, or 7th, and let you know that if we continue to have more rampant problems, we may come stronger to recommend to shut it down.
I think the homeowner, the property owner having to sign some sort of affidavit. Heather, would you say swear under oath or something like that? This is storm damage, and, and they're aware the contractor's getting the fee waived. That would probably resolve a lot of the problems. There are not many problems that they've had, but maybe a couple.
Okay.
Very good. And that's going to be through January 8th. Is what our motion says. Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0.
One more item. The Appalachia Regional Planning Council, we had a presentation today, and I spent an hour and a half on a conference call this morning. There's this organization called SELF, stands for Solar and Energy Loan Fund. It's a nonprofit group that loans money at about 5 or 6%. It's mostly towards low and moderate income people. Originally, it was for adding hurricane clips to your house, replacing your air conditioner, re-roofing your house, solar panels, solar water heaters. But they're also going to loan, given the impacts of the hurricane, if a homeowner, for example, has insurance to replace their roof, but they have a $1,000 deductible and they don't have the money to pay that, these guys will loan them the money to pay that deductible. These guys will loan them the money to make up a difference on a job that FEMA won't cover 100%. This does not go through the county. It's not like the PACE program where it would be on the tax roll. This is between this group and the homeowner, and they actually pay the contractor directly to do the work. Apparently they're real big in other parts of Florida, Central Florida maybe. They're trying to get up in here. The money is mostly that they loan out is from churches. It's from religious organizations that invest in this group for philanthropic reasons. Is that the right word, Chuck?
Philanthropic.
Close enough. I can't hear it anyway. But anyway, so I just wanted to make you guys aware about it, and hopefully they're going to be establishing an office in the Regional Planning Council's building, and they're going to start doing a lot of outreach. So I think this is, and some of the, Calhoun County, those guys over there were really excited about this. I think it'd be pretty big.
But there's nothing we need to do.
We don't need to do anything. It's not going to go through us, and
It's similar to the PACE, but not like the PACE.
well, they do verify that you can repay the loan. I don't think PACE does that. They verify you can repay it. You do have to repay it. They only have about a 1% default rate, but it's for people with lower credit scores. Anybody could borrow money. Jerry could borrow money from it if he wants to, as rich as he is. But it's also mainly generated towards low to moderate income people that can't afford it. Jerry didn't hear that. Hey, Jerry.
Anything further?
Nope.
He does it all the time, Alex. I've had to put up with this for 10 years.
8 years. 8 years.
8 years. It feels more like 10.
Yes.
So there's we have the septic tank issue coming forward, and Randy and I were dancing around because we couldn't discuss it, and I thought we'd take the opportunity to discuss it tonight. Is that as the septic tanks, the advanced wastewater treatment tanks come into use with this state funding. The big drawback for our citizens is the annual service fee. And if we take, and I'm just running, you know, an idea of if we could, for y'all to think about, is that we could get the county, you know, as a county, we could take over that annual service and probably reduce the cost of that significantly for our citizens.
Like hire an inspector?
Hire an inspector that does it, because you could probably do it, you know, for $100 a year, as opposed to the $400 to $500, $400 that's getting charged right now. And that would make it a much more reasonable system.
It's an operating permit, which you can't get around that, and then it's the inspection. And another big thing is the blowers going out now. Those are $500-600 when these blowers go out on these performance-based systems.
I don't think we agreed to put that performance-based tank on the people. I think we agreed maybe they could use alternate whatever, but
That's not working out quite so good.
You're talking about the nitrogen reduction?
The nitrogen reduction.
It's just that the way a septic tank is installed, it's inherently, you have to have it perfectly 50-50 mix. So if you transport it from Panacea to there, for example, it's going to settle on its way there. Then you got a dump truck full of separated stuff. I talked to this, I was telling Chuck earlier, talked to the Department of Health. I said, well, I can't put it in a croaker sack or something like that. That way you could stir it around, because it's only got to be a foot thick. So I, you know, put it in a croaker sack, throw it in the bottom of the hole. That'd be a lot easier than trying to use a dump truck or a shovel to mix it. But they didn't like that idea too much because they thought it would affect it.
You need to back up.
Okay, that's for the passive system is what he's describing right there. I'm talking about the the high-performance system we currently have right now, where there's a $400 annual service fee. As the state moves forward with the giving funding to allow people to switch over, we can reduce the cost of that switch over on our citizens by taking over the annual servicing. It's nothing we're requiring anybody to do at this point, Jerry. This is just an idea of how to reduce the price to our citizens.
well, you're reducing the price to the citizen who gets the tank and putting it on the other citizens to pay for it.
No.
I think what Chuck's talking about, let's say, forget about going forward. Let's just look at what we've got in the past. There is no, if you want to do a maintenance contract, you got to reach out to a septic contractor, and you know most homeowners don't know anything about their septic tank. I think what he's talking about is if there's a way the county could offer the service and charge for it, not do it free, the county could charge for it or either contract through somebody else at a fixed rate. Say, if I had 500 to do, I'll charge less. I might charge you $50 to go out and look at it. And all you do is write up a little report and you give it to the homeowner. Now, that doesn't mean that the county's going to get into the business of pumping septic tanks.
No, we wouldn't pump the septic tank. We wouldn't do any.
I think what Chuck is talking about is a way to try to maybe group together and get a better price for the citizens that do have the performance-based tanks.
Make it more like a utility, yes.
The ones in the past.
And the ones that come into the future.
And I'm not necessarily
if people
adverse
come
to
in.
what he's suggesting. Is, you know, I don't want, some are going out and having to inspect septic tanks, but if we contracted with somebody and got a good price to do it.
Well, I would be opposed to it because I think the free market needs to decide that. I think we're now using taxpayers' dollars to, you know, to take away business out of the free market. So I would not be comfortable supporting.
And I understand that.
I agree with Ralph on that, and just going one step farther, I'm out of here tonight, but I would say everything I could do to just not have any kind of a fee at all on those. I just hate the idea of somebody coming around once a year charging me money to walk by a septic tank. Now, it starts out at $50, then it goes to $100.
Well, this is something the state's requiring you to do if you have this unit, and so it's one of the things if the state's requiring us to do, we also give us it.
Yeah. And I don't know how many people are actually in the business that do this. I know when you install one, you're required to guarantee to do it for 2 years, and I don't know what happens after that. I think a lot of people just...
Now, we have not required going forward that everybody puts in that performance base. Is that not correct?
In the lower, 0.11 acres, I think, in the protection zone.
No.
Inside the protection zone, there's certain...
Still 5 acres.
Still 5 acres. If you're less than 5 acres, you have to put a...
And come January, it's going to be a half acre everywhere. That's when the rule goes into effect, the BMAP.
1 acre.
1 acre.
1 acre, I'm sorry.
Yeah, point nine.
I said, Chuck, 1 acre. Come January 1st, 1
1
acre.
acre or more, you don't have to do it.
Right.
That's right.
Unless you're in the Springs Protection Zone, then the county rule kicks in.
Well, and the state right now, if you're in that zone, is gonna give these folks up to $10,000. And so they're already receiving a tremendous benefit at taxpayers' expense. So I would not be
If
comfortable.
somebody could nail down the passive drain field method and figure out a way to do it efficiently, that to me is the much better option.
Is anyone installing that now? Is it still theory at this point?
There's instructions in the state code that tell you how to do it, but it's the logistics of making it
Work.
Yeah. They ran a few pilot tests and they had a heck of a time making it, because you had to mix it just right.
Works good on paper for an
Yes.
engineer.
Good on paper.
It's a knee-jerk reaction to, it's untested, and that's all it is. It's a state knee-jerk reaction to a lot of outcry.
I thought my idea was
I
pretty
think it's
good about
crazy.
taking it there in Carver sacks because the water could
Well,
flow.
you
Knee-jerk
talk about
reaction,
putting it
yes.
in a mixer.
I called L.B. Brooks
It's
about that.
unproven,
Yeah.
Chuck. This is
What's unproven?
that these work,
The passive system.
the passive system.
Well, we're hoping that the passive system works because it's
Hoping.
cheaper and it's consistent.
I agree.
Okay.
But show us something that works. Show me something, show me some plans that we can have, and we can go build these things, and they work. Nobody showed me that yet. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they
I
need
haven't
to be
seen proof
tested.
they work.
They have
we're
actually
requiring
they've done
people to get
pilot
these.
tests on these
They just
passive
unplug 'em.
systems.
It's crazy.
They're not as good as a performance-based. But anyway,
It's not
I
as good
did
as a
talk to
performance-based.
I did talk to Brooks about putting it in a concrete truck, but I was telling Chuck, you got to have a dedicated concrete truck then, because you can't have wood chips mixed in with concrete pouring somebody's slab because it'll ruin it.
Right.
So
If we're-
there is no easy.
However, we're talking about performance-based, half the people will unplug them when the inspector leaves. They will do that. They're not going to pay $30 a month or $40 a month for that electric bill for that performance base. They just won't do it.
The drain field idea, though, is not performance-based. So there's no operating permit,
agree
there's
with
no
you.
inspection.
That's,
If it worked, it eliminates that problem, but they haven't proven that it works.
No,
Well,
I mean,
back-
it's
back-
in the state
only if it's
statute.
plugged in.
Back to the permit. Back to this inspection.
Mhm.
Is that going to fall on the county
No.
to, who's going to do that?
State.
Is there going to be a
They're sending out violation orders left and right. to
Health
people.
department?
Health department requires that, and a plumbing company would
God.
have the certification to go out and do the inspection.
And that makes it like it's expensive to do it, and we're going to start requiring these people to have them. So we need to come up with a way to make it less expensive for our citizens to do it.
I don't disagree with you there, Chuck. I'm kind of on I'd like to hear that and see if it could work. We talked about that way back, Randy, when we put sewer in. Remember, we talked about the idea of the county being in the,
Septic utility.
being in the grinder business so we could
Yeah.
lower the cost for the owners of those grinders because they were so expensive. Well, we didn't.
Right.
And it's probably a good thing we didn't, but still, we toyed with that idea. So I wouldn't mind listening to it to see if it was, if it could work. I hear what you're saying, Ralph, but if we can help the taxpayer save some money in their pocket, I'm for that too. So
I don't disagree with that, but as the requirement kicks in for, below 1 acre, there's going to be more of these out there. So there's going to be more demand. And so I would think
competition,
there's
I
going to
agree.
be more people get qualified to do it. If you
Well,
have,
you know,
you've got enough work to, for a full-time person or more than one person, then there's more motivation to have qualified people to do that.
Well, if the price gets right, but recognize as we move forward, in the next 20 years, all septic tanks have to leave the system. Okay, and so they either have to go on sewer or they have to go on high performance. This is what's going to happen in the future. And so, this is when we need to start planning for that future, what's going to happen when we get to the situation where you can't build a house without a high performance septic tank because you're too far from sewer to do it.
Somebody's going to make good money if they can figure out this passive system.
Yeah.
I tried, but they didn't
Yes.
like my idea of the croaker sack. And I'll keep working on
I
it.
think the mixer is probably the best idea. Yep. And I say we revisit it if it becomes a problem. It's not a problem right now, and I know you're bringing it up for conversation. Just to plant that seed.
Plant the seed so that people think about it because it's coming forward. It's at some point in the future this is going to become a
Even if these
issue.
passive drain fields are the state gives you 10 grand to get it done. So
I think the market will solve that problem. If we figure out how to make hamburgers cheaper, we're not gonna, start saying, well, let's start undercutting McDonald's. I think the market's going to decide that, and I believe that the businesses will show up to do those inspections.
Well, that's what we're hoping.
Good
for,
money,
but
I mean.
right now it's they're shall we say it's 2 hours of work and they're charging about $400. So it's pretty significant.
Time will tell. Anything further?
Nope.
I'm going to pass, and we'll let Jerry have the last word. Mike?
I asked him if he'd let me go before him, and that way he could have the glory.
Just wait, I'm gonna talk too long.
Everybody's gonna leave as soon as Jerry starts talking.
First thing is, I spoke to staff today about it, and I talked to Billy Jones, and I talked to a couple Highway Patrol troopers, and I'd like for us to, as a board, agree to have David and staff draft a letter to the sheriff and the Highway Patrol asking that we step up our enforcement of county roads. I'm getting calls from folks speeding. I challenge any one of you want to come stand with me in my yard and watch them go up down Raywinkle Road. It's a racetrack, and I know the sheriff's department. I talked to Billy, and you know they do all they can. They can't afford to sit on a road and just do that all day long, and they do what they can with what they have. But if we can get both of those agencies working together to work more on rural county roads, then so be it. I mean, I had a fella, case in point, I had a guy come by my house this past Monday, had to be going 100 miles an hour, and I told my wife, I said, he's not going to make that curve. He flipped the truck several times, and it's happened on that dangerous curve there on Raywinkle. They disregard the speed limit, and it's just a racetrack. And it doesn't matter what speed limit we put on the roads, they're going to speed. And every time we pave a road, it becomes a cut-through road, and it becomes a racetrack. So, law enforcement's doing their best. I'm just asking that if we can get both of those agencies to step up the enforcement, that'll help. Billy was fine with that, and I just asked the board that we draft a letter and forward it to both agencies and ask them to try to spend more time on county roads.
I don't have a problem with it.
Rather than state roads. So, I guess what I'm really pointing at is the Highway Patrol more. So,
Right.
Writing tickets.
Do you need a vote on that, or just a head nod?
But I would assume you'd want the sheriff and the highway patrol to write tickets.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Cut the warnings out and go to tickets.
Just write tickets. I want you to write me a ticket if I'm speeding, and I would expect that you write anybody a ticket that's speeding. So.
I'll talk to Captain Hilbrand. We did some already. Of actually getting a radar school put on right now, so we can, because we lost a lot of our officers who are radar certified. So we're having a class put on to get some officers that are radar certified.
And if there's something, and if I'll speak for myself, but if there's anything we can do to help you, we helped you by putting another person on, and Billy and I talked about that. But if we can help you with equipment, come tell us. I think this is a real issue in our county. I've got people calling me. I had a man call me on Taft Drive last week. Somebody was doing 120 miles an hour on Taft Drive. That's when y'all had the
car.
Now, does that all average out? Well, they're speeding, and that's dangerous. I pulled out of my driveway, and if you know where I live, that dangerous curve up the road, nobody was coming. By the time I pulled onto the pavement, a woman was on top of me, and it's because she was flying. And, you're not supposed to back out on a main road, I know that, but people's driveways, they don't have a place to turn around. Many of those places, if you go down Raywinkle Road, you know how many people have to go onto that road out of their driveways. So it's ridiculous. So we got to slow people down. I'm asking people to abide by the law. It's going to save lives. And it's just like picking up trash. If you'll pick up trash, our county will look better. If you'll slow down, we'll be safer. So if everybody's okay with that, if we can draft a letter, that'd be great.
No problem.
The last thing is I want to personally thank Jerry. I've known Jerry for a number of years before he came in office. I worked with him 2 years from 10 to 12, and then I've gotten the pleasure to work with him another 2 years this term. What always scares me is when Jerry starts scribbling over here towards the end of the meeting, because that means he's making notes about what he wants to talk about at the end of the meeting. So it always scares me what he may come up with. But he's really been the statistics guy. He always wants to throw out statistics, and I'm not sure any of them ever make any sense, but he still does it. So it's been a pleasure working with you, Jerry, and you've done a lot of good for this county, and I like Jerry's intersection, the Jerry Moore intersection.
Just got to put a name on it.
And hopefully we'll do that. But thank you for your service. It's not always easy being up here, and
Very true.
but thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last word, Jerry.
Okay, let's see. We usually quit about 7, so I got an hour. When I came in office in 2010, basically, the county was in a mess. We had no money. Our departments were not talking to each other. The fire service was in a mess. The EMS was in a mess. It was we had $500,000 more in lawsuits that we were settling, so it was a total mess. And I think one of the best things that we did in 2010 is Ms. Arts wanted a master's degree or better for our public administrator, for our administrator. And I told her that offended me terribly because many people had talent that didn't have a master's degree. So when I interviewed the people who wanted David's job, if I saw a PA in their resume, I just canned it in the trash, because I wanted an administrator who had been out in the real world and had been on the other side of this counter, who had worked with county commissions. And basically when I saw David's resume, that was the person that had been a large developer, who had worked for a large development company, who knew sewer, roads, personnel. It was just a perfect fit for me. And I don't think David has a college degree, but he has a degree he's streetwise. He is probably the best administrator. I would just say I would put him against anybody in the state as being an administrator. Now, he's not perfect, but he's very, very good at what he does. We have a very good county attorney. We have a wonderful staff here. We have a wonderful board. It's just been a pleasure almost up here working with the board. It has been a pleasure, but it's been one of the, since I can have an hour to talk, one of the things when I ran for office.
I'll leave if you take too long.
I've been very quiet before, but one of the things Ed Bremner said, when you run for office, you're going to lose half your friends. Up until I ran for office, I'm sort of like Trump. Up until I ran for office, everybody I met was my friend. When I ran for office, 47% of the people didn't like what I had to say. But one thing he didn't say is once you're in office, that half that voted for you will want you to do something that you can't do, and you lose half of those. So you start off with 100% of your friends, and then you're down to 25%. So when I get off the board, I hope that I can go back up to 100. And the folks here in Wakulla, I grew up in a small town in the mountains in North Carolina. Our economy was state government, school teaching, state highway, working in the woods. The economy is not any different than what the folks here in Wakulla were. My folks in the mountain were 100% identical here. So when I came down here, the people here just reminded me of my being back in the mountains. And it was just so very nice to be here with these folks. I'll go through my notes. This scares Mike, but anyway. When I came on in 2010, basically just about everybody in our government was out of Tallahassee. I mean, everybody was Tallahassee folks. I pardon my attorney here. She's very good. She happens to be from Tallahassee. But other than that, we were governed by Tallahassee. I think since 2010, we have brought Wakulla government back to Wakulla people, pretty much back to Sopchoppy and Smith Creek. I never met anybody in Wakulla who was actually from Crawfordville. Everybody was either from Smith Creek or Sopchoppy. But anyway, our government is back, up and down the line. Our government is back to Wakulla County government, and that's basically where it should be. So I'm happy there. A couple of things that I didn't get done while my campaign in 210 was more for jobs. I had little girls, 5 years old. Ralph's daughter was, let's see,
6.
Ralph's daughter was about 6 or 7, and they were sitting on my knee, and you can see how grown up they are now. But anyway, my campaign was to bring jobs. I can't say that I brought the jobs, but our economy today, our unemployment is the lowest in the state. Everybody who wants a job in this county has a job. Their businesses are begging for employees. So I'll ask David a couple of things that I didn't get done. Is number one, the rec park across from Walmart. Where are we in that? That's been 8 years. I've been on that case for 8 years.
I have had a conversation with a couple of folks in the federal government, and they're going to be calling me back. The last lady that I talked to, it took me about 3 phone calls to get her to call me back, and her phone message says, "I will call you back at my convenience." So she did finally. So she said she'll call me back in 2 weeks. So we've done everything we can.
Going forward, I wanted, or going back, I wanted to see artificial reefs created on the coast.
You'll see that.
We never got there. Hopefully we will get there, but we never did. Prior to my election in 210, Randy and I met over at Shell Point for that Basin Marina. Prior to my election, Randy and I met over there. Now, folks, that only took 8 years. 8 years to get that marina set up. So government is slow. It just doesn't happen. But that was an 8-year deal.
Can you use help from any of our legislative delegation on that thing with the National Forest?
Not yet. It's not at that point.
I would like to thank a few people for my election and my re-election. First of all, I'd like to thank Kevin Gaby for all the dinners that he gave to introduce me to people when I first came down. I would like to thank Gwen and Lady Haskin. Gwen was a very good conservative person, and he did a lot to help me get elected. I'd like to thank Fred Crum, Robert Roddenberry, Fraser and Darrell Martin. They built a lot of my signs, and Fraser, his health is not so good today, but he built the best house in the county for me. I can't find one screw that's not perfect, so I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank Alan and Kathy LaMarche, Donna and Norm Card, John and Peggy McLaren. I'd like to thank the former Mike Pruitt, who helped me with my marketing and my advertising. He was just the best in marketing. He was that, but his daughter Stacy, and especially all the other people who believed in the policies that I had. And I'm not so naive to think that everybody voted for me. I think a lot of people voted to just get rid of the person who was in before me. So any way it goes, I appreciate all the votes that the people gave me and the confidence you gave me, and I hope I have earned that confidence. I said when I was elected that I would not vote for raising taxes. Sometimes you can sort of say, well, yeah, I've said that, but I'm going to just change a little bit. Well, I didn't change anything. I think I might have voted one time for the fire department to get out of tents, and I think that was $3. But other than that, I believe in small government. I believe in low taxes. I think government should always be small, and you got to be careful about that. But I'm getting down to the end.
Don't forget to thank your wife, Jerry.
Yeah,
What's that?
Your wife.
Yeah.
You got to thank your wife, Jerry. Thank everybody else.
Please forgive me, Virginia. My sweet wife came to 7 years of these meetings. She had to sit through all the cave people who were blasting me for whatever and whatever. But she sat through that, and I appreciate her so much. She had to put up with so much stuff that I don't know how she was able to sit there. But anyway, she did, and I certainly appreciate it. I wish the county much success in going forward. I think we just got the best county government that we can have. We got the best commission up here that we can have. I would, since I'm leaving, I would recommend that the board continue with Ralph as the chairman. I know I have nothing to do with that going forward, but there's not any chairman. I didn't take a chairman position for 8 years because I wasn't the best person for that. Ralph has been the best person for that. He has worked tirelessly. He has spent his own money on these trips. He is known throughout the state, especially in the district that he represents. So I would encourage you to continue with him going forward. Randy has brought us tremendous amount of money into the county. I would suggest that you keep Randy as the state road person, I guess we could say.
Close enough.
But he's worked his way up in that system. Ralph has worked himself up here. What's your position now in the county government?
With the association?
State, yeah.
I'm the incoming second vice president for the state association.
You definitely want to keep that if you can. Keep him in that position until he times out, quits, runs out, whatever. But I appreciate everything everybody's done for me. I appreciate the county government. I just can't say enough about how much I've enjoyed what I've done most of the time. But anyway, thank you so much. And I only took 12 minutes, Ralph.
Great speech. Motion to adjourn.
I only took 12 minutes.
Thank you for your service, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank
We
you,
will
Jerry.
stand adjourned. Thank you for all for coming out tonight.
That got 8 years off.
In a nice way, too, Jerry. That was very good.